Sweet. Bruh.
I can't.
Bruh.
Right to that. Like that's really the intro. To these things. Then he I totally forgot what this song was. It's gonna remind me. Yeah. I knew see why he stopped that. See why he stopped that. Foolish you are. What are these names? Hey. I don't even know. Like, I don't even know. Tripping.
Okay, I think I like how that's coming together a little bit. That's pretty. Lock that in. I haven't even heard this in so long. I gotta see version. Spot song. All I gotta do. I don't remember what buzz is. Oh, but I do know we got fade. So let me write fade down. Ooh. All right. What was this? Buzz. What is this? Your guess is as good as mine. So much so that ain't nothing. It's nothing. I don't got nothing on buzz. Or maybe because it's the sound itself. Actually can start with this. Okay. And I got Maschine up on this already. Okay. So I was prepping. Bruh. Let me see something. So if that's the case, kind of. It kind of give me like a pentagram feel. It give me like a pentagram feel. Okay. Yeah, okay. Like that. I see why. That little pause throw me off. But it'd actually be good if I throw something else in behind it, right? I like the cut though. Let me lock that bit, man. That we finna make a song. I don't know what the hell it's finna be, but I'm finna make something. I need something. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna be something. That's so stupid. So what I'm doing now, I'm finna go to another set of sounds because I got something else in mind for that. Go to my boy right, that's a bit rabbit. Appreciate it. Nope. What the fuck? Almost. Let me see something. Sound about drunk. Am I? Is that getting the vibe? Trying to find something to go with it. So, it. I know that shit sound alien like a mug. Fermi paradox. Let me say that right there while I got it. That ain't like that. That look all wrong. I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know what that was. Okay, that's it, right? Yeah. I don't know why it loops like that. So weird. Politicians, they telling lies to you niggas that you don't peep suspicion. And I can get you the direction of one of the other side of the bottom dimensions. If I okay, let's see how I go. lock that in. I like that. Okay. That don't even look like the whole thing locked, but we'll see. Eh? That was so good. Of course it's not at the beginning. Start at the beginning of the loop. Drunk bitch. Shut up. Oh, goodness. Go to the. As a matter of fact, let me just put this on 4. So I don't gotta worry about it. Actually 8. Well, actually 4. That should be it. Coming along, yeah, appreciate it, man. I think so. I hope so. Bit by bit, right? Almost, not quite. What I'm trying to find is some damn bongos. I don't know what's hitting me. No, search. Bam. I'ma get it. I'm gonna figure it out. Glad I found it. Appreciate it. Thanks, man. I appreciate you hanging around, man. I think you're the only person across like three different socials, so I appreciate it. And that it was born to slide. Only gonna keep going forever and ever. This is the beat that does it. Yeah. It's going through the effects. I got I kind of got the whole little chain up. That's sure. So yeah, no, I actually got an effect going on right now, and I wanted it to sound like a little, uh, yeah, I guess kind of like a kind of like. I don't know. I'm just shooting in the wind. I could play for hours, and obviously I do. I don't know what. Calling it. Started off with buzz. Machine don't care that I told him to stop or nothing. No, I hate when they do that. You don't start from the flag. Start right. Hills. Max Crosby, damn Raider. Man, ain't that something? Ain't that much ado about nothing. Ain't that nothing? Y'all see my algorithm? My algorithm is wild. It's crazy. My algorithm is crazy. It's gonna take a break, but I gotta wait a second. Good. What was I watching before all of this?
We usually compare the human brain to a supercomputer, assuming the only difference between them is raw processing. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of physics. A modern supercomputer requires a cooling tower and enough electricity to power a small city just to process.
I can do that to y'all. Ain't gonna do it there. Do that there.
CNN appears to be doing straight up pro-Iran regime propaganda because someone gave this guy a coffee. What is this? Let me look at this. This is CNN.
Taking a quick break for a coffee along the way. We've been driving for several hours. There's a couple of things that we've noticed. Number one.
Not about to do that.
Indeed, and of course, you know, it
Everybody's okay. Let me try to find something. Yeah. Okay.
Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following the latest gaming hardware. I'm Dan Hatfield, and always, I'm Max Scoville, host of Podcast Beyond. I'm McCaffrey, Podcast Unlocked. This week, a new report claims that both Ghost of Yotei and Staros will remain exclusive to PlayStation 5 as Sony begins to pull back from Bloomberg. So while Sony will continue to release online games, single-player games now remain constant, marking a significant strategy shift. Games on PC sometime after they hit new policy mark at a time when console rival Microsoft is all in. That would mean we should expect to see fighting game Marvel Tokon action shooter Marathon. Meanwhile, the Sony published by
Marathon.
Aura launch on PC. Plans to release Punch's Ghost of Yotei scrapped. Bloomberg also suggests poor recent games on risk to and
Can't figure out who was near my car.
and maybe even PS6 sales
Hell's
were to
gonna-
blame for the policy. Meanwhile, this is particularly interesting. Prospect of play running on the next Xbox looks like games may have encouraged Sony. No mention of Marvel's Wolverine in the report. Now seem, and if this change in policy doesn't
see.
that big a deal. Let's this out. In recent years, PlayStation has allowed PC gamers access to Spider-Man 1 and 2, plus Miles Morales, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Forbidden West, Colonel, Beyond Two Souls,
You don't say.
2, Days Gone, God of War 28, and Ragnarok, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Uncharted Legacy of
Yeah, okay. That was a lot. He's saying a lot.
I just publicly after the drama with told him to stop, and the reason behind it is shocking. This whole situation started with a Verzus battle. I went on the $1 Million
right.
podcast, told the world that
Man, like, you don't even know what to believe out of some of this stuff no more. People just be talking. They just say whatever they want, you know? I'm gonna leave this up.
What's your
real
most
quick.
likely
Let me see.
scenario that would lead to a nuclear war? Like, because you wrote the book on this stuff. That you're the person that everybody thinks of when we think about a scenario that nuclear war could break out. Of all the potential routes there, which one do you think is the most likely?
I do think that North Korea is very dangerous. I think Putin has, I would have told you 5 years ago that Putin would, he's an former intelligence officer. He's familiar with history. He knows better. And now I have a changed opinion about that. I think it's very dangerous. And I think that he, his use of the Oreshnik was sort of like that was a ballistic missile that is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. There wasn't a nuclear warhead in it. He did notify the State Department prior to the launch of that, 30 minutes prior. That's like incredibly dangerous. So everything is dangerous. Any nuclear armed nation that, threatens nuclear weapons is dangerous. But AI is its own extraordinary level of danger. And the article that you wrote speaks to that. Now, my understanding is currently everybody knows that, air quotes. And then when I learned about the Department of War Anthropic AI late at night battle over using AI in these systems, I was surprised.
Why?
Because I thought there was more restraint on that. And what I see in this administration,
From the government.
yes, and to see sort of the same bravado that we do agree on is coming out of this administration about exerting power, about just being able to do a decapitation strike effectively using AI, I go, wow, that is not what I expected.
The interesting thing with Trump generally is that he has a reputation of saying and doing things that at one point we would have all gone, oh my God. But we've almost become so used to these things that there's almost a desensitization to some degrray.
Shattering of norms, they call it, right?
He
Yeah.
also contradicts himself. I mean, that's not even, he's spoken on the record about how, I think he put out a video in 2011, might be wrong on the date, like attacking Obama for, and saying that he was going to attack
Yeah,
Iran.
in 2013,
What-
there's a
right?
tweet that he posted
So-
saying attacking Iran is showing that you failed at negotiations and something to that effect.
So
right?
here we are talking about how important it is to change your mind. Maybe if you're not maybe not if you're the president of the United States.
I think the slippery slope is so gradual that sometimes you don't see where you're heading towards. And in terms of sort of military action and the use of AI and all these things and autonomous weapons, it would feel like we're going down a slippery slope here
Yes.
in a way that I haven't felt for the other 33 years of my life as it relates to geopolitics and war. And also generally, when you think about some of the actions and speeches at Davos where the US leaders were saying to the Europeans, listen, you guys are weak now. And it was sounded to me saying like, you guys are weak, get your shit together, figure out your energy situation. We don't need you anymore. Listen, we're not going to quit. We're going to run this now. And this whole idea of special relationship, blah, 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 it seems to have gone out the window. So you've got an emboldened United States military and leadership who seem to be able to do what the fuck they want. If you don't let us use your AI how we wish, we'll smash your company. We'll take away that 200 million contract and we'll cut you off from the rest of the supply chain. And we get used to it. We hear the headline and go, oh, that's crazy. And then we kind of get desensitized again, as humans do. But the direction of travel is sometimes what you want to look at
Yeah.
versus just this sort of static state of where we are.
That's the concern. I think you
Yeah.
have hit the nail on the head with that.
I agree. I think you've got a much clearer picture than most, Steve, on what's going on here. The United States, it has to pursue AI far more aggressively than what the CEOs of these companies want. I actually do believe there's quite a bit of altruism in the CEOs and the founders of these AIs. They didn't create these AIs so they could be warmongers. They created these AIs for some techie, beautiful vision of some utopian future.
That's like saying Zuckerberg didn't create Facebook to cause teens to feel bad about themselves. He created it for way people to connect.
For something else, exactly.
Right.
Right?
But look what happens.
That's
Yeah.
unintended consequences.
Yeah.
So regardless of what the United States' opinion is about AI, it also has to very realistically look at how China is developing AI. And China is already 10x more aggressive than the United
Agreed.
States is. And if they crack the code on certain types of AI, like artificial general intelligence or recursive self-improvement, if it breaks the code on these first, it's an exponential head start over the United States. And all of their AI, everything that we have some sort of reticence about using, automated or autonomous weapons, mass surveillance, China's already using. So the number one strategic priority consistently in all documentation is China. So the United States has to aggressively pursue AI.
Yes.
I understand that mindset. It is absolutely ludicrous to think that one day an AI helps us take the leader of Venezuela and then the next day we claim it's a supply chain risk. That's the kind of lunacy that we live in every day.
That's a good point.
But my bottom line concern here is that the United States used to be the leader of the free world. We're not a leader of the world at all. We're adopting more autocratic behaviors because we're seeing other countries succeed with autocratic behaviors. And we're abandoning Europe, which is the only place left trying to say that democracy still counts. Like we are not leading anymore. We are mimicking, we are reacting, we are petulant, but we are not.
I'm still thinking about your doomsday scenario with deathbed Vladimir Putin and what he might do.
Is that like realistic?
Is it realistic? It's like from hell's heart, I stab at thee. I mean, I don't know what's realistic anymore. Again, these norms that are shattered, these restraints, these guardrails that we think, no, a leader wouldn't do this or someone wouldn't do that. I'm beginning to question all of it too. I don't know anymore what someone is or isn't capable of. And I think humans have a discomfort with cognitive dissonance where, holding two opposing viewpoints at once. We've gotten, I think, worse at it, evolutionary over time, and our politicians are the worst yet, or our world leaders are the worst at it yet. And so that's a cause of concern for me.
I always think, like, what has someone got to lose and what have they got to gain? And if you've got a couple of days left of your life or a couple of days left in office and I don't know, Trump's going to be, 83 by the time he gets out of office or something?
Yeah, why does he care if he pushes a button and does whatever?
At which point, and the same with Putin, at some point he's going to be old and he's going to have a couple of weeks left in his life. He's going to be reflecting on his legacy and he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Trump's got nothing to lose there's no second term. Well, I watched him the other day taking great admiration to the fact that Zelensky they can't be elections in Ukraine because there's a war going on. And I think he cracked a joke saying that he would kind of like that if there was a US war going on, then there wouldn't be elections. And it sounded like a joke, but a lot of things have sounded like jokes before that he said. So,
goodness gracious.
what is your what do you think happens next? And also, I wanted to get your take on, we've got this map here which shows where Iran can strike with their missiles. I've got friends in Dubai. Never in my life did I think bombs would be dropping on Dubai or any strikes or drones would be happening in Dubai. And one of my best friends was in the basement in a bunker 2 nights ago because of what's going on. That whole region has been hit. The Dubai airport has been hit. Saudi Arabia has been hit. Bahrain's been hit. What does this do? Qatar's been hit. What does this do to the region? And why are Iran hitting these places?
So this is part of the burden sharing strategy that the United States military doctrine has put in place. And I think to a certain extent, all of the region already knew they were on Iran's radar. They've all had this weird, hostile, collaborative relationship with Iran out of necessity because Iran is the breadbasket of the Middle East. So they've known that there's always the risk. But I don't think they ever took that particular risk seriously.
Why are Iran doing it? Why do they care about messing up Dubai or making people in Dubai scared?
They are lowering the pain threshold. The deputy foreign minister said, we can't strike Americans in America.
So
we
we'll
can
hit
maybe
the
strike
Americans
Americans at their
in
bases in
hotels
these
and
Arab states. And we can
embassies,
also strike the states that are hosting Americans, American civilians, American military, American contractors, you name it. They're all complicit.
It's
and
punitive.
it's lashing
And that's exactly
out.
what
Because what happens is if you make it miserable for everybody, then the United States is pressured to bring this to an end.
Okay. So they're going to continue.
What does Iran have to lose? Back to your sort of doomsday scenario, they're about to be destroyed anyway. What do they have to lose? They're going to take everyone down with them because only if that threat is real will the United States say, okay, you know what, we're going to pause and see if we can get back to diplomacy. And it might work. If the Arab states, decide that, okay, we're not going to sustain this, we're not going to fight back, we need this to end. United States, you have to stop what you're doing.
So we could see a lot of the conflict actually taking place in some of these neighboring countries, terrorist attacks, etc.
It's working. It's working. It's causing pain to these sort of peripheral countries that are not central to this conflict.
Right.
Look what the United States has done, arguably, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the unintended, well, maybe intended consequences is if I turn on the news in the UK right now, the narrative is that this region, Dubai, all of these places, Abu Dhabi, it's all unsafe. And what that means is they're showing, the Sky News are going up to families in Dubai and going, how are you feeling? And they're going, I'm stuck. I just want to get home. And this region have spent a lot of money building their reputation over the last couple of decades, their tourist economy. And this is going to, even if the war was to stop today, there'll be a big cohort of people that choose not to go there on holiday and choose not to go and relocate there. And that will reverberate. One could argue that it's actually in, this narrative that the Middle East is unsafe. One could argue that that's actually in the interests of the UK. And
it's going to drive down the price of real estate.
Yeah, and drive up our tax receipts. Because we have a lot of, I think it's the biggest place that UK taxpayers abscond to and millionaires abscond to is this region. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, you're not. I don't think you're wrong. I think that there's, whether or not, I don't believe that Western countries want to see death and destruction in them. I don't believe that. I do think that when they plan for blowback, they account for that and they try to make the best opportunity out of the blowback that they already expect. And that does make sense. But at the end of the day, Iran has to do something to react. And it knows that it can't just send all of its rockets at the fleet that's off the coast of Oman because the fleet that's off the coast of Oman is going to be able to intercept most of the rockets. So if they want some kind of effective response, the most effective response they can have is to share the pain and create some sort of international resistance against what the United States has done.
How long do you think this goes on for, Andrew, if you had to guess?
If I had to guess, I would say that there's going to be an active, hot conflict with Iran that lasts a few weeks. Hot conflict meaning every day we wake up and we see new rockets being launched and new attacks, new air sorties being launched. But the actual reverberations of this from Hezbollah, from Hamas, from the Houthis, from whatever loyal stanchions still exist in Iran, we could see that for years.
Shifted.
There's no guarantee that Iran's going to bounce back from this in a better place. I hope it will, but hope is not the same thing as reality. Hope is just hope. I hope that it will, but in the vacuum, we could see the biggest adversaries to the United States flood in and support Iran like the biggest adversaries in the world flood in and support Afghanistan. We might see that we have even less influence over the region in the future than we do now.
Is there an issue of the distraction this is causing to what's going on in Ukraine and in other parts of the world where there was already conflict and there was already turmoil? Like, are people now not going to pay attention to Ukraine so that gives Putin some cover to be more aggressive there? And
It emboldens every authoritarian ruler out there, because now it's validating to them that they're not actually doing anything wrong. The president of the United States can do it, then certainly Putin can do it, and Xi Jinping can do it, and any warlord in Africa can do it. It's allowed.
Or on the flip side, it's showing that if you act outside of international norms, that the United States president will not hesitate to decapitate your entire leadership, which is something maybe we didn't think was conceivable a couple weeks ago. So there's that inverse message.
is it conceivable that both might occur?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
both can be
That's
true.
probably
Absolutely.
It sounds to me like that might be the most likely outcome. That you're probably going to go one of either ways. You know, China might say now's a good time to get Taiwan because I mean,
Why not?
objectively speaking, people are distracted
And
they've
it's a
set
perfect time.
precedents.
It's a perfect time for someone to try to assassinate them.
But then Cuba might say, you know, fuck it,
Our
we're going to
president.
behave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because look what happens if we don't.
What do you think, Annie, on this subject of what happens next and what's likely?
I mean, to that end, I would say, how fascinating is it that what happened with Maduro in January still shocks me.
Right.
150 paramilitary or military and intelligence officers go in, grab the sovereign leader and his wife in a heavily fortified military base, take out his, guardsmen who are actually Cuban. I mean, there's just so many things to unpack in what I just said about what just happened. And yet, that's just old news.
Yeah.
That to me is
Crazy.
more interesting than what might happen in the future. Not because I can try and wrap my head around the past, but I can't predict the future. But I do believe they correlate with one another, and only after time. It's the old hindsight is 2020. It will makes how Iran unfolds. Maybe we'll get the band back together in 5 months and have a discussion, and we'll all be wrong. I don't know.
Separate question, but do you think Trump's going to leave office?
I mean, the Constitution says he is.
Do you think he will?
Constitution says he is.
Do you think he will?
I don't have a crystal ball.
Do you think he'll leave office?
I do.
Do you think he'll leave office?
I think so.
You do.
I have more confidence after last week's Learning Resources Supreme Court opinion that we saw two justices who Trump appointed who basically defied policy that was the signature of his second term, his campaign, his tariffs, and saying that you don't have that power. I was emboldened. I would have been more pessimistic, but after seeing that, it gave me a little bit more hope that there is still sort of guardrails and separation of powers. It's still a thing.
What do you think happens next in the region?
I'm with Andrew. I think 3 to 4 weeks is the timeline I see for the actual kinetic war. And then after that, every one of these Iranian leaders, whoever's left, whoever steps in and fills a role of whether it's a military junta that takes over, whether it's a symbolic supreme leader, these are all marked men. They're all going to be targeted for assassination. There is
By who?
By Israel, by pretty much anybody that considers them enemies, even maybe now some of the Arab states for that matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't pay to be a political or religious figure in Iran. So at this point, I think what we're going to see in the months to come is a slow fracturing of that support. And I'm not surprised if we start seeing defections from the IRGC and people, just like we saw during 1979, saying, you know what, it's not worth it. There's nothing. There's no long-term gain here, because this regime has lost any credibility domestically. There's none left, zero. And it's losing credibility in the region. It violated an unspoken agreement with its Arab neighbors that they don't directly fight each other in this way. And its allies, so-called allies, have abandoned it. It has nothing left. So when you have nothing left, what is there to fight for? That's why, but that's going to take a few months up to a year to play out.
What is the most important thing that we should have talked about that we didn't talk about, Andrew, as it relates to all of the stuff we've talked about today?
I think for me, what I always come back to is, what is the future for the average American? What does it look like for us? I'm not sure how this plays out. I'm not sure that we improved the state of the average American very much in the last few days. I don't know that we will see much improvement in the next few weeks. I don't know that we will see much improvement in the next few years. because of what actions we took in Iran. But I do confirm, I agree with what the other two have said. Like the United States administration has shown it's powerful in Venezuela, it's powerful in Iran. Cuba's already being more than whispered about as the next transition in government. How much chaos are we going to see to the existing world establishment before Trump then leaves office? And somebody else has to come in and pick up the mess. And I've always been concerned not about Donald Trump,
about
who
who's
comes
after us,
Donald
right?
Trump.
And what happens.
Because if Donald Trump paves the way for this authoritarian type of shift, and if he has support through his final days in office, then whoever comes next will have even more legitimacy to come in with a strong hand from the beginning. And potentially a world where only authoritarian actions work.
Well, my concern is more so other countries' point of view towards us, because then it'd be like, all right, well, yeah, everyone's afraid of Trump and all this stuff. He's the, but when he ain't around no more, when the dad ain't in the house no more, right? Like, who's going? That's when everybody starts acting up and doing, So I think, if anything, we'd have to have someone that's strong afterwards, because I think, whoever comes in next can't be weak, can't show weak, because then I think we'd be attacked at that point, So it's definitely set a new precedent.
And that just continues to take us down the road of pain.
Yeah.
I've been talking to you about this for the better part of 3 years, that I believe the world, and especially the United States, is coming into one of its darkest decades ever.
Yeah.
This is the world that we live in now, a world where it's not unipolar, a world of AI technologies we can't predict, of conflict that we can't anticipate, of mass surveillance, of the breaking of international norms. This is the world we are coming into now. It's the world that our children are going to be developed in. It's the world that one day they will have to create their own future in, and our grandchildren will inherit whatever's left of it after that. It's sad to me to see that this is where we are, and
no
unless
telling what's gonna
we
happen.
take some sort of responsibility for our own future, we will keep following this authoritarian trend.
But isn't this better than the past?
I would say no. A unipolar world where the United States is the supreme power, as an American, that is a better world.
But at least you won't die of dysentery out in the wilderness, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what people say, right? They say, well, babies aren't dying anymore at childbirth, and less people are struggling with poverty. So it's a better, depends what metric you're measuring, I guess. But on that point of the transition after Trump leaves, would it be worse if a weak leader came in? Because I'm wondering, look, we know Putin's still going to be there. We know a lot of these other powers are still going to be there. Biden didn't strike me as the scariest guy in the world, the toughest guy in the world. Didn't strike me as the toughest guy in the world. So if another figure like Biden came into power after Trump, once with that war raging over there, and with China thinking about Taiwan, etc., is that not even more dangerous?
I think there's a difference between a strong leader and a strong arm. Strong leader can chart a path, keep a vision, make hard decisions, balance priorities, keep people focused. Where a strong arm is out to win. And Donald Trump, his entire career, he's been the man who's out to win. Again, I don't think this is a Trump issue. I don't think this is a Trump problem. I don't think Donald Trump is some villain of the world. I just think Donald Trump is the manifestation of how most Americans felt at the time that they elected him, which was like, we want to win. And now we're realizing that 2 years after the second time that we wanted to win, there are other secondary consequences that we hadn't considered.
What's the cost?
And that's why so many of the kind of groups that supported Donald Trump have changed flavor about him. It's why his approval rating is so low, because he's found a way to ostracize so many of the groups that used to support him, because they didn't realize that he was more complex than what they had originally thought back in that November.
If you love your direct CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets,
crazy.
the bigger the guests.
That's awesome too. So let's make sure we give that a like, because that counted. Now, I'm gonna transition this over to something that I already wanted to watch anyway. Hold on a second. But yeah, I'm gonna go. So I wanted to transition from that and get into something that kind of works like right along with that. So there's let's see if I can find it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. This is it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, I wanted to transition into. So that was talking about like the state of the world and where we are right now, and to be honest, I think all of this is just so obsolete. It's so stupid, man. Like, I don't know why it's so complicated, but you know, it's just unfortunate. Us as humans, man, like we are so destructive. Anyway, so we don't even have to be like that. We don't have to be like this. All these things that we have that create separation, you know, whether it's racism, classism, geopolitics, religion, whatever the case may be, all these constructs are really just set up to keep us separated in minute ways and always fighting. When on the planet, man, we have unlimited resources. Everything that we need is here. It's like you don't even have to be like that, but we are anyway. So that got me into wanting to transition into this video, and this video is about the Fermi paradox. You're probably like, what is the Fermi paradox? If you don't know, prepare to have your brain blowed, and hopefully it could start, spawning you to be much more open-minded about, life and where we are with things and how, and where we are in life, in the history of humanity, in the history of the planet, in the history of the universe. Think about where we are. And okay, let's just get into the video.
Fermi Dirac statistics and
Who does it?
Enrico Fermi is one of the great physicists, legendary Italian physicist, who laid many of the foundations of modern 20th century physics, so-called Fermi Dirac statistics and all sorts of things. If you do a degree in physics, then you will spend a lot of time revising equations and theories that Fermi did. One of the great legends. The Fermi paradox.
And just so you know, you're going to go to a lot. I know you watch a whole bunch of different channels on YouTube. I know you're interested in all kinds of things. But I'm going to put you up on some science. You come to my channel, we looking at the cosmos. I am totally into astronomy, not astrology. Okay? I am an Aquarius. But I am into astronomy. If I wasn't a comedian, musician, entertainer, what have you, I would have definitely been trying to make my career path that of an astrophysicist or someone working in space doing something, some sort of, and if I get rich, or when I get rich now, that's still gonna be part of the plan. What's up, NASA? What's up, CERN? What's up, JPL?
Is probably the thing he spent least time on, actually. It's almost one throwaway remark that he delivered. And the question is, where are they? By they, I mean aliens.
The great filter. Why civilizations may not survive.
The heart of the Fermi paradox is this. We know that we live in a big old galaxy, in a big old universe. And let's, for the purposes of this discussion, confine ourselves to the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy, we now know, has something like 400 billion suns. And we now know that most of...
Think about that. The sun, our sun, is one of about 400 billion just in our Milky Way galaxy alone.
Suns have planetary systems around them. So trillions of planets. The galaxy's been around for pretty much the age of the universe, 10 billion years plus. And so there's a lot of real estate, and there's been plenty of time for civilizations to develop.
I'm going to do that one more time just so I can really try to catch that.
Billion suns. We now know has something like 400 billion suns. And we now know that most of those suns have planetary systems around them. So trillions of planets. The galaxy's been around for pretty much the age of the universe, 10 billion years plus. And so there's a lot of real estate, and there's been plenty of time for civilizations to develop in the galaxy. The Fermi paradox at its heart is the statement that notwithstanding the fact that there have been billions of years on billions of worlds for civilizations to arise, we see no evidence of any of them in the galaxy at all. So the paradox is why? Paradox. And I think it's a very good question. It's an extremely good question. And there can be many answers. And the great fun, or the great, I would say the intellectual value of the Fermi paradox, if we accept that we haven't seen any, so let's accept that. Let's accept that you know, there isn't a UFO sat in some warehouse in Roswell or something like that. Let's accept that we haven't seen any. Let's accept, well, we have to accept the picture that I've just given you about the Milky Way galaxy and its age, because that's a measurement, so we know that. The question is then, why? How do we resolve these apparent contradictions, paradoxes? But one answer to the Fermi paradox, to the idea that we don't seem to see anyone, is that no one ever evolved. Right? So life didn't get complex. Why might we think that? Well, what did we need to produce our civilization on this planet? Well, on this planet, one thing we needed was time. We have good evidence that life was present on this planet 3.8 billion years ago, perhaps even earlier. The planet is 4.5 billion years old. So we know, as a matter of fact, as an observation on this planet, that life was present 3.8 billion years ago. But it took 3.8 billion years, give or take a few tens of thousands of years, to go from the origin of life to a civilization. Let's say from cell to civilization. 4 billion years. That's 1/3 of the age of the universe. So a possible answer to the Fermi paradox, the question of why there are no civilizations, is because the Earth is pretty much unique in the Milky Way galaxy in that it was stable enough, the climate, the conditions on Earth were stable enough for long enough for life to go from cell to civilization. If you think about it, that's a big ask. What I'm saying is, on this planet, an unbroken chain of life existed for almost 4 billion years, notwithstanding the fact that we live in a violent universe.
Wrap your head around that for a moment, right? Now think about where we are right now in life. How long we've been, it's only been a few hundred years where civilization has been how we got it right now, meaning as far as like America and all that good stuff, from how you know life to be. It's only been a couple hundred years. A couple hundred years out of millions of years, hundreds of millions of years, hundreds of billions of years. And we are about to destroy it in a matter of, like, a nuclear bomb going off will destroy everything. Out of all this time, you heard him just say how long it took for life to develop on the planet, from microbe to civilization. Hundreds of billions of years. And here we are, about to destroy it. It's crazy.
The sun must have been stable enough for long enough. We know the output of the sun has changed over those billions of years, but it's not changed so radically that it managed to erase, destroy life on Earth. We know that we live in a violent universe. We know there are supernova explosions all
The dinosaurs ain't here no more. Something had to have happened, right? Obviously, asteroids. The planet has been getting hit with asteroids since its beginning. The moon, obviously, you see so it's not like we are exempt from anything like that happening now. I think in 2029 it's projected to be a comet heading right towards us right now, and we're trying to figure out. I think by next year in 27 we're supposed to have finally developed a ricochet, something that'll shoot it, that'll be able to break up the asteroid before it gets here and destroys us all. Like people aren't even aware of this type of stuff. Like it could happen right, like something could pop up right now because we really don't have the defense of, if it was a rogue planet or anything could just pop up right now. And it would be so quick. If we could see it, it would hit us so quick we wouldn't even respond. It would be just us getting ready. Anyway, I don't mean to spook y'all, but we take life and where we are, the timing that we have on this planet so much for granted. And here we are sitting here killing each other and fighting over resources and land and and beliefs, and it's crazy.
the place. It turns out that there have been no stars massive enough to explode as a supernova in a way that would damage life on Earth or erase life on Earth in this vicinity for 4 billion years. We know that nothing has happened. We know that there have been impacts on the Earth. Right? We know that the famous impact that wiped out the large dinosaurs. There's been no impact big enough to destroy the unbroken chain or break the unbroken chain of life. 4 billion years. So maybe it's the case that whilst there are billions of planets which may have liquid water on the surface, may have oceans that can support life, it may be that none of those planets in the Milky Way galaxy have been stable enough for long enough to produce a civilization. So that would be a property of the planet itself, the so-called rare Earth hypothesis. Actually, I should say it's a property of a solar system, not really just a property of the planet, the property of the parent star. You could ask the question, well, if it was a binary system, for example, a binary star system, many stars are binary star systems. Is it possible to have a planet with a stable climate, stable enough orbit in a binary star system to support an unbroken chain of life for 4 billion years? Perhaps not. When we talk about rare Earth, I think I would like to talk about rare solar systems. Another possibility with the Fermi paradox is that it's not a paradox, they are here. So there are intelligent civilizations out there and they are present in the solar system. It's possible. Let's think, for example, what such an intelligence might look like. Well, who knows? They could have sent nano machines to our solar system. There could be probes all over the place in the solar system, but if they're the size of an iPhone, then we'd have
coordinates. Let me go back.
Let's think, for example, what such an intelligence might look like. Well, who knows? They could have sent nano machines to our solar system. There could be probes all over the place in the solar system, but if they're the size of an iPhone, then we'd have no way of detecting them. So it could be the technology of a sufficiently advanced alien species, civilization, is so beyond anything we can comprehend or detect.
We wouldn't even know.
That we haven't seen it, and we've been fooled into thinking that there are no advanced civilizations. And that's certainly entirely possible.
Yeah, it's totally possible. And what's even interesting, so if you think about it, what the planet is, 80% water, 70% water, something like that. We don't know what's underneath. It's a whole nother world underwater. And so, some people tend to believe that they are in the depths of the ocean or even in Antarctica, right? So if you were to look up Antarctica, there's a lot of countries down there right now. And they're doing a lot of excavating and a lot of, so they found pyramids down there, of course. They said they found something underneath the ice too, but they're digging hundreds of miles into the ground as we speak. Anyway, y'all should look that up. Let's keep going.
Another possibility, another possible resolution to the Fermi paradox is just that the galaxy is so big. the distances between stars are so great that if you imagine there's another civilization, let's say on the other side of our galaxy, even if they had the most powerful radio transmitters you could imagine, or even if they'd spread out to neighboring solar systems, then it may just be that the distances are so great that the signals are diluted, that we can't detect them.
That's possible, for sure.
Or that it's just very, very, very difficult in an engineering sense to build interstellar spacecraft.
Right.
And perhaps you can build a spacecraft that can hop a few light years away to the nearby solar system, 4 light years in our case to Alpha Centauri, but you can't build a spacecraft that can traverse a galaxy. That's a possibility.
Yeah, like Alpha Centauri B. And, you know, being able to do traveling, so, you know, maybe wormholes will allow us to be able to, you know, transport from space to space, but the breaking down of your matter into molecules and being able to get it from one place to another place without you completely losing yourself, there's no way to do that. At least they did say that they kind of figured out how to quantum transport matter now. I think they said they did at atoms a couple of months ago, maybe last year. Anyway, so yeah, I mean,
the arguments against that for me is the argument, it's called the space travel argument against the existence.
we're smart enough. We've been able to get our. I'm sorry, I keep pausing. We've been able to get ourselves to this point in science, technology, and, you know, if you think about it, where the universe, you know, aware of itself. How lucky are we? And here we are about to destroy ourselves. We won't even have a chance. Like, we're just now getting rockets to where they're reusable, so we can get off the planet and come back and use the same stuff. We're finally at that point. We are on the cusp of being able to do interplanetary travel, you know, so that we can be able to go, like, we're about to go to Mars now. I mean, eventually we'd be able to try to get off this, you know, get out of the Milky Way galaxy and go visit Andromeda or something like that. There's no way. Not at this pace.
Extraterrestrial life. And it's often framed in terms of self-replicating machines, so-called von Neumann machines. So imagine it's possible for us, civilization, to build a machine, some kind of AI, that's sufficiently smart and capable that it can fly to a nearby solar system, reproduce itself, copy itself, and then send the copy out to the next solar system, and so on. So you have, if you build a one successful replicator, you have an exponentiation of replicators. You have 1, 2, and 4, and then 8, and so on, exponential growth. And you can show that even given our rocketry technology, you can cover a galaxy like the Milky Way in a reasonably short space of time. By reasonably short, I might even mean 100 million years.
Right.
That's reasonably short on galactic timescales. But the key point is, once a single successful replicator has been launched, then it is inevitable
it'll keep
that
replicating
over a few tens of millions of years,
exponentially.
The galaxy will be covered with replicators, and we don't see any evidence of them. It's possible that we can infer that if we assume that we could detect them, then the absence of them may allow us to infer that no civilization has ever got to that point. And I think that's quite a persuasive argument. Now, it's possible that there are many civilizations out there, but the advanced civilizations choose to remain hidden. That's called the dark forest hypothesis, quarantine hypothesis. We've been asked to make moral judgments or judgments on how a civilization will behave, what they will choose to do. And that's, of course, impossible to judge. But let's imagine civilizations, when they get technologically advanced, also get intellectually and morally advanced. And let's say that they choose, perhaps for good reason, let's say they choose to remain hidden because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. Let's say it's inevitable that if you think about it carefully and you think there are other advanced civilizations out there, then you choose to remain silent. You hide yourself as best you can. It's possible that that's the way that a civilization would think. Maybe that's a logical thing to do. I find it difficult to believe, given human history,
Watch this already,
that's
so
the way that intelligent civilizations behave. We certainly haven't made any attempt to remain hidden so far. We've broadcast radio signals out to the stars. The Arecibo message, for example, albeit weak ones. We've launched on our space probes, like Voyager, maps, pulsar maps in that case, which shows the location of our solar system should any other civilization find it. So at least at the moment, we haven't come to the view, which may be
we out here telling people where we at. Ain't that crazy? If they ever find Voyager 2 or Voyager 1, shall I say, and bust it open, inside of it, it's the golden record.
wise view, but we haven't got there, that we should remain silent. Quite the opposite. We've tried at every opportunity to broadcast our existence. Maybe that's because Carl Sagan argued, I think, that a sufficiently advanced civilization, a civilization that can build interstellar spacecraft and communicate across interstellar distances, perhaps is wise enough to have overcome those primitive instincts, the instinct to cause trouble, to fight wars, to colonize, to walk over other civilizations. Perhaps it's inevitable that with technological advance ultimately comes wisdom. But it's a hypothesis. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just anybody sufficiently clever to build an interstellar spaceship will be also sufficiently clever to hide it and not draw attention to themselves. Maybe it's immoral. Maybe it's like Star Trek. Maybe it's the prime directive. Maybe it's morally certain that if you're sufficiently advanced, you decide to take the position that you will never introduce yourself or interfere with another civilization. Maybe that becomes a kind of law of nature for sufficiently intelligent beings. Maybe that's conceivable as well. Another explanation for the Fermi paradox might be that civilizations live and die. They rise and then they fall. And because of the sheer timescales involved and the sheer size of the galaxy, no two civilizations ever overlap. I once had the great pleasure of meeting Frank Drake, Drake equation, legend, in his house. And he also grows orchids. And I arrived at his house just coincidentally on the day that this rare orchid flowers. And it flowers for, I think, 1 or 2 days and then goes away again for the year and then flowers again the next year for 1 or 2 days. And he used it as an analogy. He said, well, maybe civilizations are like that. So maybe civilizations are like rare orchids. And so they flower and die and flower and die. And just because of the sheer timescales involved, none of them ever overlap. And so there could be the wreckage, the ashes, the fossils of civilizations out there. But of course, we would have no way of knowing until we explore the galaxy, maybe find the ruins of these other civilizations. Who knows? I mean, it's quite plausible if you think about it. Are we going to exist in 10,000 years' time? It's to a large extent in our hands. Maybe we're sufficiently stupid that we won't exist beyond the next century.
See?
There's an idea in this field trying to explain the Fermi paradox called the Great Filter. Now, the Great Filter can lie in our future or our past. So let's think about what it would mean for a great filter to lie in our future. That would mean that civilizations do arise in the Milky Way galaxy and get to somewhere like the position that we're at now. So they develop rocketry, they develop nuclear power, nuclear weapons, for example, they industrialize, but then there's a filter in the future that stops them becoming true spacefaring civilizations. So stops them becoming multiplanetary species and stops them ultimately traveling between solar systems to begin to colonize a galaxy. So why might that be? Why might there be a filter waiting for us in our not too distant future that's going to stop us going onto Mars and stop us escaping our solar system? What might stop us from becoming an interplanetary species and ultimately traveling out beyond our solar system? I don't think it's technology. As far as I can see, I don't see anything in the laws of nature in principle that would stop us from becoming an interstellar species. Might be 1,000 years in the future, 10,000 years in the future.
But it's
might
possible
be
for us to get there.
100,000 years in the future. Even that, right? 100,000 years. It's a blink of an eye in the lifetime of the universe, in the lifetime of a galaxy. So I don't see any reason in principle why we couldn't become an interplanetary, interstellar species other than potentially our own stupidity. And I think that probably it could be one of the reasons why we don't see any other civilizations around. It could be that our knowledge, our scientific prowess exceeds our wisdom, exceeds our political skill. It could be that once a civilization develops the means to destroy itself in the form, for example, of nuclear weapons or biological weapons, or maybe some kind of a lack of control of AI, who knows? It may be that once a civilization acquires that technical know-how, then it goes ahead and destroys itself essentially inexorably, because it's just too difficult politically to run a civilization that has the power to destroy itself.
That sentence right there, that does it for me, man. You know, like when I think about all this and talk about all this stuff, it's just like, and unfortunately, humanity has, you know, we've always, you know, with all the good, it's always been the bad as well. You know, it's been equal. You know, with the great technology that we get access to and that we get to use, there's always people that pervert it, you know? So, yeah, I think if anything, man, we'll be our own destroyers. Some reason I'm terrified of living life like it's Mad Max, like a world of just like no resources after a nuclear holocaust, everything is destroyed and everybody, you know, go back to the bartering system. I think books become the most valuable thing on the planet again because people can't read and don't have access to knowledge. Or we say the Book of Eli, like the movie with Denzel. Hey, man.
If you look back through our recent history, there have been several occasions that we know about, that I know about, and you know about, where we came very close to destroying ourselves, or at least setting us back to the Stone Age, basically. The Cuban Missile Crisis, well-documented events in the 1980s, for example, where there could have been nuclear launches and weren't, and I'm sure there are many others that we don't know about. There's the challenge of climate change. We're completely incapable of coming together at the moment as a global civilization to address that challenge. That could set our civilization back. Biological weapons, the threat of AI, we seem to be completely incapable of regulating those threats. So it might just be almost a law of nature. Things like us, right? Things that can build an industrial civilization are just inherently too stupid to get out there to the stars. And I wouldn't put that past us. My favorite's the other one, so I'll do the other great filter. If I was to guess, and this is a guess, right? If I was to guess why we see no evidence of other civilizations out there, the so-called Great Silence is what astronomers call it, is because there aren't any, and there never have been any. That's my guess. The reason I guess that, and I emphasize it's a guess, is biology. So if you look at the history of life on Earth, then we see that life began.
Now, what's interesting about this is what he's about to say. It actually coincides with evangelistic ideology. You don't know what I mean?
3.8 billion years ago, let's say. But then we see for the best part of 3 billion years on this planet that there's nothing more complex than a single cell. 3 billion years. It's only in the last billion years or so, perhaps a little bit less, that multicellular life has existed on this planet. And there could be good biological reasons for that. One that springs to mind is the evolution of what's called the eukaryotic cell, which is the cell with the cell nucleus and all little organelles and chloroplasts in plants and all those things, which form all multicellular living things on the planet. Those cells, which seem to be prerequisite for complex multicellular life, evolved once on this planet, as far as we can tell. It's pretty widely accepted. called the fateful encounter hypothesis. And so it seems that there was a very unusual evolutionary event at some point, maybe a billion and a half, even 2 billion years ago, that laid the foundations for us. If that's typical, if it typically is the case that it takes 4 billion years from cell to civilization, then I think there may be very few planets in a typical galaxy which are stable enough for long enough for that process to proceed. And we could be, for all we know, on the fortunate end of evolutionary timescales. We don't know. Let's imagine that actually we were on the lucky side, and really, on a typical planet, if there is such a thing, then it takes 3 or 4 times as long. That would exceed the current age of the universe. My guess is that whilst I think there might be microbes all over the place, I wouldn't be surprised, I'd be delighted, but I wouldn't be surprised if we found evidence of microbes on Mars, Europa, Enceladus, even in the subsurface oceans of
Europa's the
places
moon of Jupiter.
potentially even as far out as Pluto, right, in subsurface lakes. If they exist, liquid water below the surface, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if we find microbes all over the place. But a galaxy full of complex living things, other planets with not only complex life, but sentient life, things as smart as us, things smart enough to build
the universe
rockets
aware of
and head out
itself.
to the stars. My guess is that a typical galaxy may have less than, on average, less than 1 civilization per galaxy. Let's put it that way. But actually, just to say, there's a very famous book I'd strongly recommend, Barrow and Tipler, called The Anthropic Cosmological Principle. It's a great book. One of the books
The
I grew up
Anthropic
with.
Cosmological.
And in that book, Barrow and Tipler say that in their view, there might be 1 civilization in the observable universe, which should be us, right? So who knows whether we should go that far. But I think civilizations are very rare.
You see what I'm saying? So
And I think
like,
it's the biology. So I'm guessing, I'm
maybe
giving
the
you a
only one
guess.
with
I'm saying that in
souls,
my
only one
opinion,
made,
I think
you know what I mean?
there's 1 civilization in the Milky Way galaxy, and there
But
only
we don't
has ever
know.
been 1, and there might only ever be 1, and that's us. Which, by the way, means that we have a tremendous responsibility not to mess this up. Because as I said I was asked to give a video introduction to the climate summit, the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow recently. Give the world leaders 1 minute. They said, you've got a video, say something to them. And I said, I think, let's assume that we're the only civilization currently in the Milky Way galaxy, perhaps the only civilization there will ever be. That means the Earth is the only island of meaning in a sea of 400 billion suns. And so if we destroy this, we might destroy meaning in a galaxy forever. Discuss. So that's my guess. However, that's a hypothesis. I will be delighted if it turns out that's not true.
Right,
And that's not just because it removes some responsibility from me and you and everybody else to preserve intelligence in a galaxy of 400 billion suns. The weight of responsibility is heavy.
So much.
But also, every scientist should be delighted if they are shown to be wrong. Because the moment you're shown to be wrong, it means you've learned something. And that's the way that knowledge progresses. So nobody should be worried about making a guess, advancing a hypothesis, an educated guess, or even an uneducated guess. Don't worry about doing that. As long as the moment it turns out you're wrong, and me being wrong, by the way, would constitute a flying saucer landing and some aliens coming out like ET and saying hello. So that would be brilliant. But it would be doubly brilliant because it would turn out that I'd learned something about the universe, which is that complex civilizations are not as rare as I think they are, or civilizations aren't as rare. So that would be a good thing. So there's a lesson.
Awesome talk. I love that. I hope you were able to
Support
get
the
something
channel.
out of that, man, because
Join the
it's
Big Think members community where you get access to videos early, ad-free.
yeah. Y'all make sure y'all go and hit that like button on Big Think. Go and follow it. I love this channel. Yeah, physicist Brian Cox is incredible. He has a lot of other videos on here and stuff like that, but I was up till maybe like 3 or 4 the other night, and this popped up, and I knew I wanted to share this with y'all, and so that's what I ended up doing. I made sure I had not too far off. I kept putting it, I kept clicking on it so that it'd still be in my history, so I could pull it up quickly for y'all. But yeah, man, it's yeah, it's real. Let's see. We'll do quantum physics, but I'll save y'all for that. We'll save that for another topic. If y'all like science related stuff when I talk about the cosmos or things like that, man, let me know in the comment section. Hit the like button or whatever. So I can keep bringing this kind of content to you. I don't see too many people talking about science and the cosmos and what really matters. And so, you know, I plan on bringing that to you and talking and doing it in my music and in my stand up. I talk about this in my stand up. So, you know, it all works. It all comes together. Let's see. Damn, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Hold on.
65 million years ago, an asteroid crashed into Mexico and triggered a mass extinction event that would kill off the dinosaurs. We all know that one, but a lot less of us know that an even bigger asteroid landed in the Sudbury region of Canada nearly 2 billion years ago and left behind massive amounts of precious metals from space inside the Earth's crust. And just a few 100 million years before that, an even bigger asteroid landed in Vredefort, South Africa. It created the largest known impact crater on the surface of the Earth today. Lucky for us, it's been a very long time since one of these earth-shaking monsters has come our way. Which begs the question, are we lucky, or does that mean we're overdue for an extinction-level event? The closest asteroid encounter that we've had in the modern day actually happened in 2013.
Right
a
before my
relatively
birthday.
small rock, about the size of a house, came screaming through Earth's atmosphere at a speed of over 69,000 kilometers per hour and lit up the skies over northern Russia. This asteroid almost landed in the Chelyabinsk region of Siberia, but before it could reach the ground, the rock itself exploded due to a buildup of heat and pressure at an altitude of roughly 30 kilometers. But that doesn't mean the Earth was safe. A resulting shockwave ripped through the air with enough power to shatter glass windows and crumble brick walls. As many as 1,600 people were injured, and over 7,000 buildings were damaged across 6 cities.
Dang.
Now, we're lucky to say that the 2013 asteroid could have been worse. If it had exploded any closer to the Earth, the damage would have been greatly amplified. So let's take a look at what happens when an asteroid strikes the surface of a planet. Let's use a big one, just for fun. The rock that took out the dinosaurs was about 10 kilometers wide, and we have a pretty good idea what happened on the day that thing landed. Now this is a lot different from getting hit with a bullet or a cannonball or any other traditional impact. These space rocks operate more like underground bombs. So, assuming our solid massive asteroid survives its blazing hot journey down through the atmosphere, in the instant that it makes contact, it's going to punch through the surface, and then it's going to release its kinetic energy into the Earth. That is the energy of an object in motion, which is mass times velocity squared, and we are talking about a very heavy object moving at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. The release of that energy is going to vaporize the asteroid itself, so the whole giant space rock instantly transitions from a solid into a gas. That means rapid expansion, also known as explosion. The explosion will radiate out in all directions. Above ground, that looks like a devastating shockwave and fire that incinerates everything as far as the eye can see. That sucks for everyone inside that blast zone, but this is not the real problem with asteroid impacts, because just as much of that energy from the explosion is going to be directed underground, and for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So what happens is the ground itself gets launched up into the air. That one big rock from space has now sent thousands of smaller rocks flying out in all directions. And they're not going to carry enough velocity to go all the way to space, but they are going to be moving fast enough to enter these suborbital trajectories. And the most powerful of the ejected rocks will fly halfway around the world to rain destruction on every continent of the Earth. That's how you end up with a global extinction event. The sky literally becomes fire and smoke and ash, and no matter where you are in the world, it's like being caught inside an oven. So either a chunk of rock lands on you, or you live long enough to be cooked alive. Either way, sucks. Unless you live underground or underwater, in which case you have to wait out an ice age for your opportunity to repopulate the Earth.
Right.
When you hit play on an episode of the space race, what you're really seeing is the end of a long, complicated process. Every video goes through multiple people doing research, writing, multiple rounds of editing, motion graphics, 3D work, animation, asset tracking, timelines, and constant coordination to keep everything moving in the same direction. Sintra.ai helps us manage the operational side of that process.
Yeah, check out Sintra.
Instead of a single do-everything AI, Sintra gives you focused AI helpers that work like virtual teammates, each designed for a specific job.
Oh, they're cute. Y'all check out Sintra. Sintra, if y'all want to sponsor me, go for it. Let's do it. I'm here for it.
Sintra.ai for supporting the channel and helping keep the space race running smoothly. Going back now to our modern day Siberian asteroid, obviously it could have been a lot worse, but inevitably the day will come when it is worse. So what happens to us on that day? Well, it largely depends on how prepared the human race is to meet this doomsday rock. You see, the problem is we're not as good at spotting asteroids as you might think or hope.
That's what
For
I was
example,
saying.
the 2013 Siberia asteroid literally took the world by surprise. No one saw that coming until the people on the ground looked up and saw it with their own eyes just seconds before the explosion.
Right.
To understand how something so nearly catastrophic can just slip through the cracks, you need to see something. This is an image from the European Space Agency that plots the location of every known near-Earth object, which is a title that we give to anything that will come within about 45 million kilometers of the Earth's orbit. So most of these dots are currently nowhere near the Earth, but all of them will come close at some point on the timeline. How close? Well, that's the thing that we're constantly trying to figure out. You might remember an asteroid scare in February 2025 that gripped the news media for a couple of weeks. That was one of the rare occasions where a newly discovered object appeared to have a chance of impacting the Earth within a relatively short time. The asteroid in question was somewhere between double to 4 times the size of the 2013 Siberian event, so it had potential to do significant damage. Not world-ending, but a very, very bad day for any city or town that it happened to land on. And that day would arrive as early as 2032. Now, the chance of impact was never higher than about 3%, which doesn't sound like much, but another way to say that would be about 1 in 33. How lucky are you feeling? Fortunately for us, the chance of impact with the Earth eventually dropped to 0, although the odds of hitting the moon then rose to about 4%, and while that's better than the Earth getting hit, you don't want an asteroid crashing into the moon either.
Right.
Imagine the same impact scenario we played out earlier happening on the moon instead. Of course, no people would be caught up in the blast zone, so that's good, but because the moon has only about 1/6 the gravity of the Earth and no atmosphere to slow things down, this time a lot of the ejected debris will actually make it all the way into space. So now the moon is essentially creating a big trail of rubble as it orbits around the Earth, kind of like a ring, which is cool, except because the explosion released energy in every direction, a lot of that debris is going to be headed towards us. Now, the asteroid that might hit the moon is a lot smaller than the one that caused the dinosaur extinction, so the chunks of rock that get ejected from the moon will also be on the small side, meaning that our atmosphere will catch pretty much everything that makes its way over, and it will just burn up. The real danger is actually to all of our satellites and anything else that might be orbiting the Earth in 2032. Because that stuff is going to get a shower of debris and dust from the moon, and that would cause problems. Don't expect Google Maps to work after that one, or Starlink, or anything else dependent on a satellite network. But how do we even claim to know stuff like this in the first place? Well, let's talk about how these predictions get made and why very dangerous objects like the fireball in the Russian sky are able to slip through the cracks. The most effective way to find an asteroid is to simply point a camera at the night sky and take a series of photos over a relatively short timeline, like a few hours. As long as we account for the Earth's rotation, we know that the stars will remain still over that time. So now we look for anything that moves in between the photos. Up until very recently, it's been impossible to photograph the entire night sky at the same time. So what we've been relying on is a small group of dedicated individuals all around the world who spend their entire night looking at photos of white dots on a black screen. Now, let's say they do find something new. Let's say it's an asteroid the size of a football stadium. How do we know if this object is a threat? Well, in simple terms, you look at where the object was when it was first detected, then you look at where it is now, and you draw a line connecting the 2 points, because everything in the solar system orbits around the sun. That line is going to curve, and then to see where the asteroid is going, you follow the curve and draw a prediction. Of course, the exact shape of that line is going to involve a lot of complicated factors of orbital mechanics that we're not going to worry about today. But an easy way to picture this would be the first prediction is going to be drawn with a very wide brush, much wider than the path of the actual asteroid, but because we still have limited information, we have to account for the potential margin of error. And this is how we end up with an asteroid scare that dominates global headlines, because if the Earth happens to be inside that wide brushstroke, then at that time, there is a chance that we end up in the final path of the object. But what happens is that over time, the observers get more information about how the asteroid is moving, and gradually they redraw the line with a thinner brush. Now, the scary thing is, if the line gets thinner and the Earth is still inside that line, then our chances of getting hit will rise. Sometimes they rise by a lot. This is not a time to panic though, because the most likely outcome is always that the line will get thinner and thinner until the Earth is no longer inside the path of the object, at which point our chance of impact goes straight to zero. So it's understandable that the average person would get very confused by this process, upset even. But if you understand what's going on, then hopefully that saves you some doomsday prepping the next time this news story comes around, because it will happen again, and it will happen more often as time goes by. The good news is that we're pretty sure we've located at least 99% of all the extinction level near-Earth objects. Those are rocks about 10 kilometers in diameter or more, and none of them are going to hit us, not anytime soon at least. The problem when we draw that line of prediction is that we can get it down to such an ultra-thin trajectory that we know exactly where it's going to go. But the line itself can never be drawn more than about 100 years into the future. Those complicated variables of orbital mechanics that we mentioned earlier start to make the predictions less accurate after a certain point until prediction becomes simply impossible. Either way, you shouldn't worry about doomsday rocks, because even if we did see one coming at any time soon, there's nothing we can do to stop it. Not unless we invent a powerful new measure of planetary defense. And we might. But personally, after looking into this, I'm much more worried about the smaller ones. Did you know that in the past 40 years, there have been over 1,200 asteroids with a size larger than 1 meter that have hit the Earth's atmosphere? Probably not, because out of all of those, less than 10 were actually detected before they hit, and even when they were spotted, it was about 1 day of warning at most. If you're wondering how that can happen, just think back to our dedicated team of insomniacs. They're looking for dots on screens. They can only see objects that are either really big or really bright. If the asteroid doesn't reflect enough sunlight, then it's practically invisible to the camera. And probably worst of all, we know that this leaves us with a giant blind spot in our asteroid detection, because we can't point a camera at the sun. Its brightness washes out everything else in the frame. So an asteroid flying at us from the direction of the sun would be essentially undetectable. Of course, the space between the Earth and the sun is much smaller than the space outside of the Earth's orbit, so how likely could it be that we get something from that direction? Well, the 2013 Siberia asteroid came at us from the sun, so unfortunately, it's not uncommon. And just like our giant extinction level asteroids, it's really not worth worrying about these things either, because again, there's not anything that anyone is going to be able to do about it. Now, there is a sweet spot of an asteroid that we should be worried about. That's something in the range around 1 kilometer in width, give or take. Small enough that they might still be undetected, but big enough that we could reasonably spot one 10 or 20 years in advance of a direct hit. So, what do we do? An asteroid around 1 kilometer in diameter would not cause a global extinction, but it would annihilate an entire country the size of Germany or France. And we can probably all agree that something like that should be stopped from happening, if such a thing were even possible. And we do have some ideas. One is to simply crash into the asteroid and try to nudge it off course. This is one that NASA has already experimented with. The double asteroid redirection test, also known as DART, was launched
Put
in
some little
2021.
jets on it.
It would send a probe about the size of a porta potty on a direct collision course with an asteroid called Dimorphos, which itself is about 177 meters across, large enough to decimate a major city if it happened to land on one. This is what it looked like when DART hit that asteroid in September 2022. We chose this asteroid because it actually orbits around a much bigger asteroid called Didymos. Not that Diddy. But what we were looking for was a change in that orbit of one asteroid around the other, because that's much easier to measure than a change in orbit around the sun. What we've observed in the years since then was a complete success. The DART impact moved Dimorphos into a different orbit around Didymos, and the amount of change actually far exceeded NASA's expectations. The impact was about 30 times more effective than the baseline prediction. So, that's a positive result, but it's still inconclusive about how we could actually change the path of a 1 kilometer sized rock over the course of 10 or 20 years orbiting around the sun. We could theoretically launch an impact that is a bit bigger than DART someday, but for the near future, there's going to be a limit on what we can fit inside a rocket, and it's not very big. Not in comparison to a city-destroying asteroid, at least. But one thing that we can look forward to in the short term is a lot more knowledge about near-Earth objects, and knowledge is power. There's a new telescope that just came online in 2025 that's located in the Chilean desert at a site called the Vera Rubin Observatory. Remember we talked about the guys staring at little pictures of the night sky and said that it was impossible to photograph the entire night sky all at once? Well, now it is possible, thanks to this telescope. Not only is it really big and really powerful, it's also very nimble, so using a system of high-precision electric motors and stabilizers, the Vera Rubin Observatory can move fast to take many pictures of many locations all in one night. It essentially lets us take a detailed survey of the entire visible sky once or twice a week. That essentially lets observers create time lapses of the universe, and then within that moving picture, we look to identify the fastest moving objects. So as a result, we are going to find a lot more near-Earth asteroids, and that is going to be a scary time for a lot of people. But at least now you know what exactly to be worried about, and even if there is a cause for concern, it might not be the end of the world as we know it.
Bruh. That was actually good. That was a good little video. See what I'm saying?
This
See
is
what I mean?
Pluto.
That's what I'm talking about. Y'all make sure y'all go give it that a like. Oh, let me hit the like button too myself. I didn't.
This is Pluto.
I didn't hit the like. Okay. I heard that was good, man. That is good. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
This episode of the Y-Files is brought
Get
to you
ready
by
to go.
PDS Debt.
Turn it in, man. Y'all watch the Wi-Fi?
On April 25th,
Do y'all know anything about this? I love the
Corporal
Wi-Fi.
Armando Valdez
So
was
good.
guarding a campfire in the Chilean mountains. Just before dawn, he saw a glowing purple mist. Valdez walked into the mist and vanished. 15 minutes later, he stumbled back into camp. He was shaking. He collapsed. His men checked him over. He seemed fine, except for one detail. When Valdez left, he was clean-shaven. When he returned, he had a short beard. And his watch had jumped ahead to April 30th. He was gone for 15 minutes, but he lived for 5 days. And Valdez's story isn't unique. This phenomenon has appeared all over the world for centuries. Different cultures call them different names. We know them as time storms.
Mm-hmm.
Mamma mia, there you are. I be calling.
I love the Wi-Fi's. But, okay. All right. I think, That might be it for now. Let's see.
The solar system is usually shown as a flat disk, 8 planets circling the sun on a neat, tidy plane. It makes for clean diagrams. It's easy to visualize, but it raises an obvious question that most people never think to ask. What's above that disk? What's below it? The answer is more interesting than you might expect, because once you leave the familiar plane of the planets, you enter regions that are vast, mysterious, and largely invisible. Structures that surround the solar system in every direction and connects us to the larger galaxy. In this video, we'll explore what's really out there, above, below, and all around us. Before we look above and below, it helps to understand why the planets orbit in a disk at all. The solar system formed from a cloud of gas and dust about 4.6 billion years ago.
It's not flat. What the hell is that video talking about? I don't know. Well, no. Tired now. Sleepy. Be back in the morning, though. Appreciate y'all pulling up and watching this stuff with me. It's crazy. I'm sleeping, man. All right, now. Well, pull up on me in the morning. We'll be back.
Atlanta police investigating a double shooting that has claimed the life of one person. Police are still on the scene in the parking lot of the West Ridge Shopping Center on MLK Jr. Drive Northwest. And that is where we find 11 Alive's Angelina Salcido. Angelina, what can you tell us so far about this investigation?
Well, Jennifer, that person that this shooting claimed was actually just 37 years old. It is a woman, and her family is actually still here on scene. Family and friends have been here for quite some time as they try to process the fact that this happened just hours ago. So Atlanta police have been here combing through the details of this scene as the shopping center has still remained open for these hours after the shooting happened at around 8:18 this afternoon. The coroner is still on scene right now. What we know from Atlanta police is that the shooting happened at around 8:18. It involved at least 3 different people: that 37-year-old woman who was killed, a 51-year-old man who was shot in the foot and taken to the hospital after that. His condition right now is that he is alert, conscious, breathing, and doing okay, and a 21-year-old male who police say is currently detained and being questioned. There's also another female who has been detained and being questioned right now. They say that this all stems from an argument that may have happened earlier this week.
What we've been able to learn and